My name is Courtney Marchese. I'm an assistant professor of interactive digital design at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, about 90 minutes outside of New York City. And my research has been on interface design for autism treatment. I thought I'd start out with just my abstract before jumping in. The purpose of this exploration is to research activity theory and its implications on user experience and interface design, particularly in a classroom environment. By applying this research to data collected from instructors of autistic students, we can identify areas for maximizing user experience for three distinct collaborative audience segments: teachers, therapists, and students. The visual component of this research is a prototype of an iPad app that I named Nedu. So the idea for this project came from a friend working with autistic children in the Bronx area of New York City. I was chatting with her and she expressed frustration about the fact that students all had iPads, but the bandwidth at the school was so low that the children were getting upset with the devices. She had said, gee, it would make a lot more sense for the teachers to use the iPads than the students. From that conversation, I began investigating tools that teachers have for working with autistic students, particularly apps that help replace the need for data tracking binders. Currently, the tracking of autistic students in the classroom is a tedious and inefficient task involving collecting data via clipboard. So what I wanted to do was create an app to better design this need for the clipboard. So characteristics of autism. According to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders, autistic children express impaired ability to make friends with peers, impaired ability to initiate or sustain a conversation with others, absence or impairment of imaginative and social play, stereotyped repetitive or unusual use of language, restricted patterns of interest that are abnormal in intensity or focus, and inflexible adherence to specific routines or rituals. So my motivation and approach. Current apps available for data tracking are somewhat generic in terms of the parameters that they offer and are not customizable enough to take into consideration each student's very unique needs and learning programs. As a result, many programs and teachers still collect data manually on paper. As you can see here, this is just kind of a little example. And this is just because there are needs that aren't fully satisfied by current apps on the market. So after watching several classes, it was quickly evident that many of the manual data tracking methods are very time-consuming and hinders efforts for producing meaningful results, because a lot of their time is spent just flipping papers. One theory that is helpful in understanding a more complex app is activity theory. Activity theory can help design for simultaneous custom tasks, activities, and students to create a more specialized and useful daily tool. Consider that activity theory looks at an entire multi-user system, so teams and organizations that might be all contributing to the education of autistic students. It accounts for the environment, the history of the person, the culture, the role of the artifact, motivation, and complexity of real-life activity, just like a really bustling classroom filled with children. It provides a method of understanding and analyzing a phenomenon, finding patterns across interactions, recognizes cognitive processes involved in the use of tools, as well as the development that results from these interactions. So all of this is applicable to Nedu's complex data tracking capabilities and its potential to capture layers of recordable actions, not just one at a time. So first, let's look at some of the key features and capabilities of Nedu. From here, I'll show you how those layers of interactions are identified, and then ultimately what the app might look like. So some features of the app include a secure, unique login for teachers, students, and therapists, so they each have their own login. So that allows them to take their own unique sets of data that can be collected and then compared and reported collectively. Teachers and therapists can build their own data sheets from scratch instead of using a lot of apps that just have one or two options to work with. And students have access only to their specific granted reinforcements. So if you give the child the app, they won't have access to a lot of extra buttons or features that might otherwise confuse them. It has the ability to time, record video, take notes, record data, and toggle between students all at a moment's notice and simultaneously. It has an external secure database that collects and stores all the data that's collected. It has customized charts that can be generated based on a student's unique goals and activities, as well as a specified date range. All that data can be compared to IEP goals and is easily reported as a graph or text depending on what the use will be. So starting with the data sheets, you have to start to kind of connect the different pieces and come up with some sort of meaning. So to identify patterns and interactions, the first step is to dissect the paper data sheets to see what sort of parameters are used on a daily basis. I observed several classes to see how the teachers and therapists collect data. They're constantly starting and stopping and flipping back and forth between their sheets and so on. And I needed to see how that would translate to a digital form. I created a bunch of basic flowcharts to indicate various tasks that are currently handled individually, so really looking at each sheet individually. Some students use several data sheets, some use much fewer, so you have to be able to account for that sort of complexity. So this helps establish some working relationships between tasks and reveals which items can effectively be layered on top of each other. So as a reminder, here are some of our sheets. Out of the three audience segments, teachers, therapists, and students, the teachers have by far the most complex tasks to handle. So this is looking at just kind of a snapshot of what, if you logged in as an instructor and you clicked on skills, these are all the different options that you might have. So many of the steps involve choosing to use a preset or adding your own new item. And ultimately data is collected and you choose to view your outputted data. Likewise, very similar type flowchart for if you signed in as an instructor and you chose a behaviors tab. So these sorts of flowcharts are made for every possible action within the app as well as the specific user. So I made a bunch of these for instructors, therapists, and students so that I could really get a better understanding of how this might work. So these are very preliminary ideations that I'm about to show. Although the app is a robust tracking tool, the aesthetics and navigation make the app usable, flexible, collaborative, and efficient. The data can quickly and easily be shared with other professionals or parents in the same secured network. And although I'm only showing a few of the screenshots, very similar interface features will be available for therapists as well as students. So, the app, when you start it up, you have options between logging in as a teacher, therapist, or student. So the most robust area is the teachers, and since I just showed those flowcharts, we'll look at that. So it's basically a multi-tabbed binder, behavior, skills, charts, and instructional needs. Along the top, you can toggle between your different students up here. You can quickly take notes. You can quickly take a video if someone is doing something a little bit abnormal or something they've been doing the past few days, you need to capture it. And then you can quickly choose this if they are expressing some sort of maladaptive behavior. So within skills, if you choose play scenarios, these are the 3 different play scenarios that Chris is working on. So if you choose activity play, you can choose a task that he's already been working on, or perhaps add a new one, and then choose his level of assistance, so gestural prompt record. These are all of the trials collected on this particular day, and then this is the calculation. So 17% he answered independently correct. Let's say during that he expressed some maladaptive behavior. If you were to either click on the lightning bolt up here or go to behaviors, maladaptive behaviors, you can see kind of his trials that have been collected throughout the day, and this is usually done in 15-minute segments. So aggression, record. If he starts screaming, you can hit record. So this keeps a running list in 15-minute intervals, and then the total is collected at the bottom. Another key feature of this is, of course, the charts portion. So when you click on charts, and I'm still working with Chris here, but if I wanted to, I could switch to a different student. This is my date range. I can choose which things I want to use. I put line graph. And then this is just our basic overview of what he's been working on for the past week. And I've chosen to focus on skills, viewing as a graph. So this just kind of shows us some of his general progress if we need to see something up close a little bit more. So I want to look at what he's been doing with blocks. I would click there, and it shows how he's doing in comparison to what the IEP goal is for him on this particular activity. So we can see he's progressing. So that's kind of some of the basic features of the instructor tab. If you were to log in as a student, you get a very different look. So you still have your little Nedu owl here. And all you have access to is the reinforcements that your teacher has allowed you. So if you have done a certain task correctly a certain amount of times, you are given the iPad and you are allowed to do one of these things if those are what you've been allowed to do. And the teacher could add a new reinforcement for you. So this is just some of the basic stuff that you can do, and ultimately I would like to completely replace the need for binders and clipboards in the classroom. So in conclusion, by applying activity theory, we can successfully break down actions and operations that help inform our interfaces and gestures. The level of customization plus aesthetics make it user-friendly and easy to see as a daily tool. Immediate feedback, functionality, and opportunity for collaboration make Nedu an effective classroom tool for autism. And the app itself offers amazing flexible opportunity for tracking other illnesses and disorders through gestures and interactivity. So I think there's a lot of promise for this, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.